In the galaxy of Saran, 9 powerful worlds formed a grand council. Each world had its own king, queen, and royal bloodline. Peace between the worlds was strong, but it came with rules. One rule was clear: royal families must marry only among themselves. Marriage between rulers kept peace strong. It was tradition. On the world of Varnuk, King Haller ruled with wisdom. His daughter, Princess Alira, was unlike any royal the galaxy had ever seen. Her skin had a soft silver glow. Her eyes were bright blue and filled with gentle light. Her voice didn't come from her mouth, it came through her thoughts. She spoke in visions. She could show memories, dreams, and feelings inside another's mind. It was a gift of the old stars. But the galaxy called it strange. They called her cursed. Alira was quiet and kind. She cared for plants, animals, and small children in the royal city. She spent time walking in gardens, talking to birds, and painting images of the stars. She didn't enjoy battles, loud halls, or the false smiles of visiting princes. She was soft in a world of hard rulers. When she turned 20, King Haller sent invitations across the galaxy. He called for suitors, princes, leaders, or noble heirs to meet his daughter. Many came, all left. The first prince said, "She is beautiful, but too silent." The second said, "I cannot marry a girl who lives in dreams." Another prince from Telvac said, "She shares her mind without asking." "That is not right." Even worse, some never came. They said, "Why bother? The Varnuk princess is not like us." Alira heard it all. Her heart broke again and again. But she never cried in front of others. Only in the quiet nights, alone, in her tower, she let the tears fall. King Haller loved his daughter deeply. He stood by her side and protected her from the harsh words of others. But even he knew hope was fading. One evening, after the last visitor left with a short bow and a quick excuse, Haller walked with Alira in the garden. "My star," he said gently, "I do not understand why they cannot see your light. You are a gift." Alira looked at him and shared a vision of a single flower blooming in a field of snow. It glowed with warmth, but none dared touch it. They only feared the cold around it. "I see," the king said. "You feel like that flower." Alira nodded slowly. In the weeks that followed, no more suitors came. The council began to whisper. Maybe Varnuk is hiding something. Maybe the princess is not fit to rule. King Haller, under pressure, made a sad choice. He announced to the council, "My daughter shall no longer be offered to the 9. She will live free. Let her be as she is, and may time choose her path." The galaxy moved on. Other marriages were arranged. The council was pleased. Peace remained, but Alira felt alone, like a star left behind in an empty sky. She walked her gardens as always. But her steps were slower now. Her smiles came less often. Even her paintings lost color. The people of Varnuk still respected her, but from a distance. They bowed politely, but never spoke long. Some feared her gift. Others simply didn't understand her. One day, as she stood near the edge of the palace walls, watching the sun dip behind purple mountains, a flash of light cut across the sky. A small ship was falling fast, smoking, spinning, broken. It landed hard in the far fields, sending dust high into the air. The guards rushed to the crash. Alira followed behind, curious but calm. From the broken ship came a figure tall, wearing a cracked helmet, covered in dust. He took off the helmet and coughed. His face was plain, his hair dark and messy, his hands rough from work. But his eyes were wide with wonder. "Where ... am I?" the man asked. "You are on Varnuk," said one of the guards, stepping forward. The man smiled tiredly. "Ship broke down. Was heading to Nova Station to deliver parts." Alira stepped forward, her silver glow catching the man's attention. He looked at her, not with fear, not with confusion, but with surprise. And something more. She sent a soft vision to his mind, an image of the garden, peaceful and safe. A way to say, "You're welcome here," the man blinked. "Did you just talk to me without speaking?" Alira nodded gently. "That's amazing," he said, smiling wide. "I'm Rian from Earth." It was the first time in years someone had smiled at her like that. And it was the first time anyone said the word amazing about her gift. Alira tilted her head, her heart curious. The guards led Rian to the palace guest halls. His ship needed repairs. He would stay for a few days, but something had already begun to change. In the galaxy where everyone had rejected her, a simple human had arrived. And he didn't run. He smiled, and for the first time in a long while, so did she. Rian had never seen a place like Varnock. His life had been full of machines, fuel lines, and space stations. He was used to noise, heat, and the cold metal of space docks. But here on Varnock, everything was calm. The sky was purple-blue. The trees had long silver leaves. Birds sang in soft tones, and the wind carried the scent of glowing flowers. He had landed by accident, but he didn't regret it. After the crash, Rian was taken to a large guest room in the royal palace. The bed was soft, the walls were painted with stars, and a warm light came from floating crystals. A servant brought him fruit that sparkled and tea that sang quietly when it steamed. Rian looked around and muttered, "This place is wild." The next morning, his ship was taken to the royal repair bay. Varnock engineers were careful and silent. They said little, but treated Rian with respect. After all, no outsider usually stayed in the palace unless they were royal. Later that day, while walking in the outer garden, Rian saw her again, the princess. Alira was sitting on a low stone bench. A glowing bird perched on her hand. She smiled at the bird and let it fly away. She noticed Rian and gave a small nod. Rian smiled back. "Hi again." Alira said nothing. Instead, she looked at him and sent a gentle vision into his mind. He saw a picture of the garden, bright and peaceful, and a feeling of welcome. "I still can't get over that," Rian said, rubbing the back of his neck. "How you talk like that. It's beautiful." Alira stood and walked slowly to his side. She pointed to the sky, then sent another vision: stars, wide and endless, with Earth glowing small in the distance. "You know where I'm from," Rian said, surprised. "Earth," Alira nodded. "I guess your people study other worlds?" He asked. She showed another image: books, stars, voices of many kinds, and a little silver flower in the middle of it all. A feeling of loneliness passed through his heart. "You've studied everyone," Rian said softly. "But they didn't accept you, did they?" Alira looked down. Then she looked back at him and showed a single image, a pair of hands, one reaching and the other pulling away. Rian sat beside her on the bench. He looked around the garden. It was peaceful but too perfect, like it had been made to trap beauty. "Inside, you don't really get to leave this place, do you?" he asked. She shook her head. "That's not fair," Rian said. "You're not broken, you're just different." Alira blinked. Her silver eyes held something new, a sparkle of hope. The next few days, Rian stayed busy while waiting for his ship. But every free moment, he returned to the garden. And every time Alira was there, they began walking the paths together. Rian talked about Earth, about deserts, oceans, and trees that grew tall like towers. He told her stories about space stations, wild creatures on mining moons, and how humans often made mistakes, but always tried again. Alira listened. Sometimes she laughed, though her laughter was soft and soundless. She would send visions of her dreams flying through starlight, building bridges between worlds, and people of many species smiling together. One afternoon, Rian brought her a small gift, a hand-sized music orb from Earth. When pressed, it played a gentle tune with quiet drums and soft strings. "This song always helped me think," he said. "It's not much, but I thought you might like it." Alira held the orb carefully. She showed an image of a tiny tree beginning to grow in her heart. She liked it. The bond between them grew stronger, but not everyone was pleased. High above, in the royal tower, the advisors of King Haller spoke in whispers. "This human is growing close to the princess," one said. "It is not proper. He is not royal," said another. "He has no power, no rank, no bloodline." The oldest advisor, a woman named Malin, warned, "The Council of Nine will not accept this. If the princess chooses a human, Varnock may lose its place." King Haller stood silent for a while. Then he said, "Let her be. She has suffered much. Let her smile, if only for a while." The advisors did not argue, but their eyes were full of doubt. One evening, as the sun sank low and the sky turned gold, Rian and Alira walked beside a glowing pond. Fish swam under the water like tiny stars. "Do you ever wish to leave this place?" Rian asked. Alira showed a vision of a bird in a glass cage. It sang, but its wings were still. "That's what I thought," Rian whispered. "You deserve to be free." She turned to him and touched his hand. A powerful image rushed into his. Mind him and her, walking together on a different world. Peace, warmth, a promise. Rian looked at her. "You want me to stay?" Alira nodded. His heart beat fast. No one had ever looked at him like that before, not with fear or judgment, but with true trust. "I don't know how this will work," Rian said, "but I want to try." They stood in silence as the pond lights danced. Far away, stars began to shine in the cold galaxy, full of rules and walls. Something gentle had begun, something real. Days passed and the bond between Rian and Alira grew deeper. It was not loud or sudden, it was soft, like morning light that slowly warms the earth. They never rushed. They simply spent time together in the quiet gardens they walked among. Glowing flowers. Sometimes Rian told funny stories from his travels, how he once got trapped in a cargo bay with a wild food creature, or how he once slept in a toolbox during a storm. Alira would cover her mouth, her eyes shining with silent laughter. She showed him visions too. One day, she shared an image of her as a child, trying to talk to the stars. Another day, she sent a memory of her first dream floating above a silver planet where everyone could hear each other's thoughts. Rian said softly, "You dream of a kind world," Alira nodded. She then sent an image of him standing in front of a bridge that connected two planets. The feeling was clear. "You can help build that world." Rian looked away shyly. "I'm just a mechanic. I fix things. I don't belong in royal stories." Alira touched his hand. Another vision, his hands fixing broken wires, his heart shining with patience. He wasn't royal, but he brought light. That evening, they sat beside the crystal pond. The fish glowed, blue and purple under the moonlight. Rian looked at her and asked, "Have you ever loved someone before?" Alira sent a quiet image, an empty room, full of mirrors, but no reflection in them. Then, slowly, one mirror showed his face. Her meaning was clear. "No one before you," Rian whispered. For a while, neither of them spoke. The stars above moved slowly, watching. But in the royal tower, trouble was growing. The oldest advisor, Malin, gathered others for a quiet meeting. "We must speak to the council," she said. "The princess cannot marry a human. It would break every rule." Another advisor said, "If she follows her heart, we will lose our place in the galaxy." "She is blinded," Malin said. "He is simple, kind maybe, but not worthy of royal blood." They sent a message to the Council of Nine Worlds. "The Princess of Varnock is being influenced by a human. We request guidance." The council responded with cold words. "Such a union is forbidden. If she continues this path, Varnock will be removed from the council." King Haller read the message in silence. He looked out at the garden below and saw his daughter sitting with Rian, both smiling. "She is happy," he whispered. But the price will be high, Malin warned. That night, the king called Alira to the throne room. She stood before him. With grace, her silver skin glowing in the warm light. "My daughter," he said softly, "do you love him?" Alira sent a vision of her heart opening like a flower, sunlight touching it for the first time. King Haller sighed. "He is kind, he is honest. But the council will not accept this. If you choose him, we may lose everything." Alira stepped forward and touched his hand. She sent an image of her childhood, her looking at stars, alone, while others played, and laughed far away. Then she showed her and Rian, walking together under the same stars. "Not alone anymore." "I understand," the king said quietly, "but we must prepare." The next day, Rian was called to meet the king. He stood in the royal chamber, nervous and quiet. King Haller looked at him kindly. "You are not a prince. You are not trained in royal ways. But I see how she looks at you. I see how she shines again." Rian bowed slightly. "I never planned this, Your Grace. I see her. I respect her." The king nodded. "Then you must prove it to the galaxy. There is only one way." Rian frowned. "How?" "The trial of unity." The words hit like thunder. Alira stepped forward, shocked. She sent an image of great danger giant halls, tests of mind, spirit, and heart. "It is an ancient law," the king said. "If one outside the royal bloodline wishes to marry into it, they must pass the trial." Rian swallowed hard. "And if I fail?" "Then you must leave," the king said. "Forever." Alira looked at Rian. Her hand touched his. A vision flowed into his mind, him standing strong, facing fire, facing wind, facing shadow. And then, at the end, her waiting, smiling, Rian took a deep breath. "Then I'll take the trial." The king nodded. "It begins in 3 days." That night Alira walked with him one last time before the trial. They said nothing. They simply held hands. Her silver light wrapped around them like soft stars. Before they parted, Alira sent a final vision: 2 seeds, planted in darkness, growing toward the light together. Rian smiled. "Whatever happens, I won't stop trying." And deep in his heart, something strong had awakened, not fear, not pride, but love, and that love was ready to be tested. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. A human named Rian would take the trial of unity to marry Princess Alira of Varnock. Some called it foolish. Others called it brave, but most of the galaxy laughed. "He's just a human mechanic," said a noble from the cold moon of Pharos. "He doesn't belong in royal bloodlines," said the warrior queen of Jil. "A human can never pass," whispered the high voice of Solmer. Even within Varnock, whispers filled the palace halls. Servants stared. Guards questioned. Courtiers frowned. "He will fail," they said. "And when he does, we will return to peace." Rian heard the whispers. He felt their cold stares. He was not blind. He knew most expected him to fall. Still, he stood tall in the training yard. He prepared for the trial. Royal trainers tested him. One tested his thinking with riddles. Another tested his focus through deep meditation. A third tested his courage. Using illusions of fear, Rian struggled. He made mistakes. He fell, but he always got back up. "I don't need to be perfect," he said. "I just need to stay true." Princess Alira watched from the garden walls each day. She sent him silent. Visions of rivers flowing, stars rising, and mountains standing firm. Her love gave him strength, but not everyone believed in him. Malin, the king's chief advisor, visited Rian one night. She walked into the training yard with sharp eyes and a hard voice. "You don't belong here, human," she said. Rian wiped sweat from his face. "I know what I am." "Then walk away before you destroy everything," she said. "The council has warned us. If you fail, we may lose our place." "I won't fail," Rian said calmly. Malin stepped closer. Even if you pass the trial, you are still just a man from Earth. The council will never respect you. They will laugh behind your back. And worse, they will look down on Alira for choosing you." Rian stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I don't care if they laugh at me. I only care if she smiles." Malin frowned. "Love is not enough to protect a kingdom." "Maybe not," Rian said, "but love is enough to start something new." She left in silence. 3 days later, the sky above Varnuk turned dark. The trial of unity was about to begin. In the great hall of trials, 9 judges sat in a circle. They wore long robes and glowing crowns. Each judge came from one of the 9 worlds. They did not speak much. They only watched. Rian stood in the center of the hall. He wore a simple dark suit, no armor, no crown, only honesty in his eyes. Alira watched from a high balcony. She said nothing, but her heart spoke for her. The first test began. Test 1, the challenge of peace. Rian was placed in a room with 2 alien leaders from rival worlds. They argued loudly. War was close. The test was simple. Stop the war. Rian listened carefully. He didn't shout. He didn't take sides. Instead, he told a story about 2 miners from different moons who shared food during a storm. He asked both leaders to look at their children's future, not their own pride. After a long silence, both leaders shook hands. The judges gave a silent nod. Test 2, the challenge of fear. Rian was locked in a chamber where his deepest fears came alive. He saw a broken ship drifting into the dark. He saw his old crew yelling his name and fading away. He saw himself failing the trial. He saw Alira turning away from him. His hands shook. His knees weakened. But then, he closed his eyes. He remembered her vision of the 2 seeds growing together. He remembered the crystal pond, her soft light, her smile. He stood tall again and walked through the storm of fear. The door opened. The judges nodded again. Test 3, the challenge of heart. This was the hardest. He stood before a mirror. Nothing else was in the room. A judge's voice echoed, "Show your love, but use no words. No talking, no visions. Only action." Rian thought carefully. He closed his eyes and began building. Using simple stones from the floor. He shaped something. Slowly and carefully. A circle. A garden. A bridge between 2 sides. Then he placed one final piece, a small silver star, shaped from his necklace. A gift. He stepped back. The judges entered. They saw the shape. They saw the star. They understood. It was her. It was them. Together. Outside, a crowd had gathered in silence. They watched the sky. They waited. Finally, the palace bells rang once, then twice, then a 3rd time. That meant one thing. He passed. The people gasped. Many were in shock. A few cheered. The rest stood still. Alira ran to the hall doors. When Rian walked out, covered in dust and sweat, her eyes filled with silver light. She didn't speak, but she didn't have to. She showed a vision of her heart blooming like a flower, under warm sunlight. And he smiled. The galaxy that once rejected her now had no choice but to notice, because the human had done what no one else could. He passed the trial. The palace of Varnuk glowed brighter than ever. Flags danced in the air. Silver lights floated in the sky. People from every corner of the kingdom gathered outside the royal walls. They came not just for celebration, but to witness something no one believed could happen. A human had passed the trial of unity. Rian, once just a mechanic from Earth, now stood beside Princess Alira as a chosen one, not by blood, not by power, but by heart. Inside the palace, nobles gathered in the grand hall. The walls shimmered like glass, showing images of stars and ships, planets and moons. Alira wore a long silver dress that flowed like water. Her light was brighter than ever before. She stood tall beside Rian, her eyes filled with silent pride. King Haller stepped forward and raised his hand. Let it be known, he said, that the trial has been passed. The heart has spoken. The choice is made. Some nobles clapped politely. Others stayed silent, their faces tight with doubt. Rian felt the tension in the air. He leaned toward Alira and whispered, I think some of them still don't like me. Alira gently touched his arm and sent a small vision shadows being chased. Away by the morning sun, he smiled. Right, light takes time to reach dark places. Outside Varnuk, the news spread across the galaxy. On the golden planet of Sulkar, the Queen of Stars shook her head. A human ... This changes things. On the frozen world of Zirin, a general frowned. He passed the trial. But can he carry the weight of power? On Earth, people cheered. Rian's name became a song in the streets. One of us made it, they said. One of us changed the galaxy. But not everyone was happy. The Council of Nine, leaders of the United Worlds, met in secret chambers on the moon of Darren. The High Speaker, a tall being with crystal eyes, stood and spoke coldly. This bond was never part of the plan. He passed the trial, said one voice. Even so, said another, if this becomes normal, our pure bloodlines will mix with the unknown. He is kind, said a soft voice, and she is not cursed. She is unique. The vote was called. 4 worlds voted to accept the union. 4 voted against. All eyes turned to the last council member, the silent voice of Solian. A peaceful world of deep thinkers. After a long pause, she finally said, let love shape the future. The decision was made. The bond between Rian and Alira would be accepted, but the warning was clear. Let this be the only one. Do not open all the doors too quickly. Back on Varnuk, Rian and Alira walked through the royal gardens. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. Rian said, I never thought I'd be part of something this big. Alira showed a vision of a small stone dropped into a still lake. Ripples moved across the water, touching every edge. You are the stone, she said through the vision. And the galaxy is feeling your presence. But even with the council's decision, many on Varnuk still whispered. Some nobles believed Alira had chosen wrongly. Others feared what the future might bring. One noble said, if this human marries her, what next? Will Earth lead the stars? Another replied, perhaps it is time for change. Perhaps it is time for new voices. Still, doubt spread like thin smoke through the palace. Even Rian felt it. That night, he sat alone under a silver tree. His mind was full. He had passed the trial, won the council's vote, and earned Alira's heart, but the galaxy was still unsure. He wondered, will I always be the outsider? Alira found him there. She didn't ask what was wrong. She simply sat beside him. After a while, she touched his hand and sent a vision 2 roads, one smooth and bright, the other rocky and dark. But the rocky road led to a place filled with laughter, light, and love. The smooth one ended in silence. Rian understood. The right road isn't always easy, he said. Alira nodded. Rian looked at her. Do you ever feel afraid? She showed a vision of herself as a young girl, standing before a mirror, wondering why she was so different. Then the mirror cracked and 1,000 stars reflected back. I used to fear myself, her vision said. Now I shine. He smiled and took her hand. Then we'll walk together. No matter what. The next morning, the king made a new announcement to the galaxy. In 3 nights, he said, Princess Alira and Rian of Earth will join in union. All worlds are welcome to witness. This is not just a royal marriage, it is a new chapter. The galaxy watched. Some with hope, some with fear, but none could look away because something had changed. The unwanted princess had found her place. The human had earned respect in a world not made for him. And together, they were not just rewriting a story, they were writing a new future. 3 nights before the royal wedding, The palace of Varnuk was covered in starlight. Floating lanterns moved through the sky like fireflies. Music filled the air, soft, warm, and full of hope. But beneath the beauty, many hearts were still. Unsure that this would be the first time in history a royal from the 9 worlds would marry an outsider. A human. Some called it progress. Others called it danger. Inside her private chamber, Princess Alira stood quietly in front of her tall mirror. Her silver skin glowed softly. Her long robe shimmered like moonlight. Servants had offered her royal jewels and heavy crowns, but she had refused them. She wanted to look like herself, not someone forced into tradition. She looked into the mirror and sent a quiet vision to herself, a young girl standing alone. Then a woman standing strong. She was no longer the unwanted one. There was a soft knock at her door. It was her father, King Haller. He walked in slowly, his face calm but tired. "Are you ready, my daughter?" Alira nodded once and sent him a small image, 2 hands joining under the stars. He smiled. "Your heart has chosen well. I only fear the world may not understand." She showed him a vision of rain falling on stone, then slowly making flowers bloom. Change takes time. The king said, "But you are brave." He kissed her forehead and left her in peace. In another part of the palace, Rian stood on a high balcony. He wore a simple royal robe, dark blue, with a silver mark of Varnuk across the chest. The wind touched his face. Gently as he looked out at the sky, ships from all over the galaxy had arrived. Great golden ships from Selkar, tall, spiky ships from Jil, soft glowing orbs from Solian. Even a few small Earth ships floated quietly above. Rian took a deep breath. So many stars, so many eyes. Behind him, an old voice spoke. "You will soon be part of history." Rian turned to see Malin, the king's chief advisor. She looked serious as always, but less cold now. "I know you don't trust me," Rian said. "I trust your heart," she replied. "But hearts can be broken. And when a royal heart breaks, it affects millions." "I understand." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Prove us wrong. Not just once, but again and again." Rian nodded. "I didn't come to break anything. I came to build something." Malin gave the smallest of smiles, then walked away. The night before the wedding, Alira and Rian met one last time alone in the Crystal Garden. It was the place where they had first truly spoken. "I still can't believe this is happening," Rian said. Alira sent a vision star spinning slowly, pulling toward each other until they touched. "You were meant to be here," the vision said. Rian smiled. "Even if I wasn't a prince?" She sent another image, an empty crown resting on a heart. "You gave your heart. That is worth more than a title." They sat quietly on the bench as the glowing fish swam in the pond. The garden was still, like it was holding its breath. "Are you afraid?" Rian asked. Alira nodded. "I am too," he said. "But not of marrying you. I'm afraid of what comes next." She showed him a vision of a road leading through dark trees, with a light at the end. "Then we'll walk it together," Rian said. He reached out and held her hand. No visions were needed now. Their silence said everything. The day of the wedding arrived. The palace gates opened wide. Crowds from many worlds stood together, looking up at the royal tower. Silver banners flew in. The air was full of song. In the main hall, Alira walked slowly down a glowing path. Her dress sparkled with soft lights. The people stared, not in fear this time, but in wonder. At the front, Rian waited. His eyes stayed only on her. The king stood before them both. "Today," he said, "is more than a union of 2 hearts. It is the joining of 2 worlds." He looked at his daughter. "Alira of Varnuk, do you choose this man, not by law, but by your heart?" She sent a shining vision, her heart opening like a flower toward the sun. "Yes," he turned to Rian. "And you, Rian of Earth, do you choose?" "This woman, not for power, but for love." Rian said clearly, "Yes, with all I am." The king raised his hands. "Then let all stars know, from this day on, these two are one." The hall echoed with light. Alira and Rian touched hands, and a ring of silver light wrapped around them. The people stood in silence. Then, slowly, they began to clap. From one hand to another, from one voice to many. The palace filled with a sound that had never been heard for this princess. Before acceptance, joy, love. The girl, once called unwanted, was now a queen of hearts. And the man once seen as simple had become a symbol of hope. Far above. The Council of Nine watched from their ships. Some smiled. Some still frowned. But all agreed the galaxy would never be the same. The days after the wedding felt like a dream. Varnuk's skies shined brighter. The palace was filled with light, laughter, and peace. People from far and near came to give gifts and blessings. Some brought rare flowers that only bloomed in fire. Others brought crystals that sang when touched. A small girl from a farming moon gave Alira a hand-drawn picture of her and Rian holding hands under stars. The royal couple accepted each gift with kindness. Alira sent soft visions of thanks. Rian gave warm smiles and simple words. They did not speak like rulers. They spoke like friends. For the first time in Varnuk's history, the palace gates were open for a full week. All were allowed to visit, no matter their world or title. And slowly, the fear in people's hearts began to melt. One morning, Rian walked through the city with no guards, wearing plain clothes. Some people stared. A few bowed. One young boy ran up and said, "Are you really from Earth?" "Yes," Rian said, smiling. "Do you fly ships?" "Sometimes." "Did you really pass the trial of unity?" Rian bent down and said, "Yes." "And do you know what helped me the most?" The boy shook his head. "Kindness, not power. Just kindness." The boy smiled, then ran off to tell his friends. From windows and shop doors, people watched Rian closely, not with fear now, but with curiosity. Some waved. Others gave small nods of respect. He was no longer just a human. He was their prince now. Inside the palace, Alira sat with the Council of Elders. She shared visions of her future plans. In one vision, she showed schools where children of all races learned side by side. In another, she showed small space bridges connecting poor planets with rich ones. In a final image, she showed leaders from different worlds eating together, laughing and speaking in peace. One elder said, "These dreams are big." Alira nodded and sent a simple vision of a tree growing from a small seed. "All change begins small," she said. The council agreed. But far above, in the cold space of the Council of Nine, not everyone had accepted this change. Some voices still called it wrong. Some feared other royals might now seek outsiders for marriage. Some feared Earth would rise too fast. A secret meeting was held. In that dark chamber, voices whispered of control, rules, and old laws. One voice said, "Let us watch. If they fail, we close the gate forever." But the quietest voice said, "And if they succeed?" The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer. Back on Varnuk, time passed gently. Rian and Alira didn't hide behind palace walls. They visited villages, flew to nearby moons, and walked among the people. They listened to stories, helped with small problems, and gave hope with just their presence. One day, while visiting a spaceport school, a little alien girl with bright yellow eyes asked Alira, "Were you really unwanted before?" Alira looked into the girl's eyes and sent a soft vision her as a child, sitting alone under a tree. Then a hand reaching out to her. Then joy, light, and love. The girl smiled. "You're not unwanted anymore." Alira smiled back. Late one night, Rian and Alira stood on the royal balcony. The stars above them were quiet and wide. A soft breeze moved her long hair. Rian held her hand. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if I never crashed here?" he asked. Alira sent a vision: two stars, passing close, but never meeting. The space between them full of silence. But you did crash, she said through the vision, and we found each other. Rian laughed softly. Yeah, I guess space luck is real. They stood quietly, looking at the stars. You've changed. Me, Rian said. I never thought I could be more than a worker, but you helped me see I have more to give. Alira sent a new vision, his hands lifting others, building bridges, planting hope. And you, Rian said, you're more than a princess. You're the heart of a better galaxy. They didn't speak again that night. They didn't need to. Their silence was full of love. In the years that followed, their story became more than history, it became legend. Songs were written about the Baza Human and the Star Princess. Books were read in schools about the trial of unity and the power of kindness. Statues were built not of them standing above others, but beside them. Varnuk changed. And so did many worlds. No longer were people judged by race, world, or power. More and more, they were judged by action, heart, and honesty. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was better. And every time someone asked how it all began, the answer was simple: a princess everyone rejected. And a human who said, I see you.